I have a short story for you guys, and don't worry, it is actually pretty brief. So, I was bored as freak, and I did something I usually don't do, which is turn on the ancient and outdated cable TV. Shocking, right? Anyways, I was trying to see if there were any animated movies on. Oh, and I don't mean kid flicks, and most of them were anime, which I'm not much of a fan of. However, there was one movie I did come across that was Western animated, and it surprised me. A lot, in fact. That movie was The Breadwinner. I just wanted to disclaim before I continue this video, which is that this video is neither a negative nor a positive review of the cast, crew, animation, story, and so forth. It is merely a positive review of the way Islam is depicted, as well as groups such as the Taliban are condemned. There are many things I do like about The Breadwinner, but I would prefer to discuss this one topic. And finally, before I start, I will warn people that my view of Islam and jihad is negative. Although, I have no distaste for any individual, be they Muslim or not, in the Middle East or West. With that all said, let us dive in. Our story starts in 2001, in Kabul, Afghanistan. At this time, Afghanistan is recovering from the Soviet-Afghan War as well as the takeover by the Taliban. It is a tension-filled place, patrolled by the militant soldiers who follow Islam and its extremist interpretation. A lot of people don't realize this, but before the rise of radical Islam in the 1970s, the Middle East was actually a pretty peaceful place. But when Iran fell, things began to go downhill. We learn a bit about this, as well as the quite awful things in the turmoiled Afghanistan. Women suffer horrible abuse for not wearing this, which looks more like a garbage bag than a garment. I don't know what's scarier, the punishment for exposing the slightest amount of skin, or the fact that the number of countries that force women to wear this is in the double digits. Anyways, the plot of The Breadwinners is about Parwana, a young girl pretending to be a boy to feed her family. There are a lot of movies with similar concepts, one of the best of which is Mulan. However, in some ways, there's something I like more about this movie than Mulan. Maybe it's the fact that I know that this very day, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, this sort of thing is happening. It happened yesterday, it happened today on March 21st, 2018, and it will happen tomorrow. Personally, I dislike the idea of coercing countries into something, but maybe the West should say something about the way political dissidents, infidels, women, etc. are treated in the Middle East. And yes, my opinion is controversial. This movie is controversial. That's why the movie did horrible in the box office, only earning 3% of the budget it was made on. Some theaters didn't show it for that reason, which is odd because last time I checked, freedom of expression was more important than my feels. But what can you expect? In fact, a lot of the mixed and negative reviews of this movie tended to be from media outlets like the Washington Post, who try to criticize the movie for being hard to follow. Because, yeah, it totally wasn't understandable. What's perhaps the saddest thing about the whole movie and its ideas is the fact that liberals accept almost all the horrors of Islam with open arms, so they won't offend people. However, Christianity, my faith, is attacked repeatedly and brutally by those same people. The liberals that do, however, tend to act as though they're the same thing. They aren't, and they've never been the same thing. Christian women were never beaten for not covering up, 10-year-old kids weren't forced to marry this guy, and Christians didn't go to non-Christian countries and blow up their skyscrapers. But yeah, I can't tell them apart. Another thing that I really like about this movie is the way the moderates are treated, by which I mean the Muslims who are decent people who simply want to live their lives in peace. These people are intimidated, beaten, and even arrested, such as Parwana's father in the movie. This is important for many reasons, but personally, as someone who has seen people be persecuted on a lesser scale, I relate to it. And many moderate Muslims in many countries throughout the world are persecuted in a similar fashion, which is pretty tragic and sad. Personally, I don't know how common it is for girls in the Middle East to have to do this to provide for their families, but considering that there's a billion people living in Muslim majority countries, it must have happened a few times, right? Or, as Cenk Uygur would say, right. There's issues with Islam that this movie didn't show, but I won't hold it against them. They only had an hour and 30 minutes to show both the story and the evil side of Islam, and for the latter, they did amazing. I want to create shows that dabble in controversy. Cartoons and animation is an art to me, and controversial ideas is a brave thing for any movie maker to do. Hopefully, someday for me, that won't just be a dream. As for dreams, I dream of a world where the Middle East becomes a stable and safe place for the people who live there. But we have to make that change so that those dreams become reality. Thanks for watching. Mystic out.
I can have you killed!
Oof! Ouch! My bones!